Slipknot released their sixth studio album, We Are Not Your Kind, on August 9th. A little background of the band. Slipknot is an American heavy metal band from Des Moines, Iowa. The band was founded in 1995 by percussionist Sean Crahan, drummer Joey Jordison, and bassist Paul Gray. After several lineup changes in its early years, the band settled on 9 members for more than a decade. Crahan, Jordison, Gray, Craig Jones, Mick Thompson, Corey Taylor, Sid Wilson, Chris Fain, and Jim Root. Paul Gray died on May 24, 2010. Jordison left the band due to illness on December 12, 2013. The band found their replacements in Alessandro Venturella on bass and Jay Weinberg on drums. After the departure of Jordison, the only founding member in the current lineup is percussionist Crahan, who also goes by Clown. Chris Fain left the band due to a lawsuit on March 18, 2019. And he would be replaced by Tortilla Man. That's just what the fans call him. We don't know his identity as of right now. Slipknot is well known for its attention-grabbing image, aggressive style of music, and energetic and chaotic live shows. The band rapidly rose to success following the release of their eponymous debut album in 1999. Happy 20-year anniversary. The 2001 follow-up album, Iowa, although darker in tone, made the band more popular. After a brief hiatus, Slipknot returned in 2004 with Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, before going on another hiatus and returning in 2008 with their fourth album, All Hope Is Gone, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. After another long hiatus, Slipknot released its fifth album, Point 5, The Gray Chapter, in 2014, and their sixth album, We Are Not Your Kind, on August 9th, 2019. The band has sold over 30 million records worldwide. Alright, I'm going to go track by track through this thing. So first up is Insert Coin. This is the intro track. It has kind of like an 80s sound going to it, kind of synthy stuff, and I believe that's why it's called Insert Coin, because arcades were popular back then, so just kind of makes sense. My only real issue is I wish that this led into the next song better, because it kind of just ends and then the next one starts with like the choir. And the next song is Unsainted, but I really feel like they could have made that transition perfect, and it just isn't. On to Unsainted. This was the first single that they released, and to me it's just kind of a typical Slipknot radio style single. There's nothing really special, I guess, about it. The female vocals are cool, again, with like the choir going on. I thought that added a cool element to the song, and I think they should do it more often, honestly, because it didn't sound out of line, or it didn't like take over the song. Like, it just added to it. Still a really good song, though. Just because I said it's a typical radio single or whatever doesn't mean I don't like it. I obviously enjoy it very much. The whole reason I'm even into this band is because I heard their songs on the radio. You know, back when I was a wee young lad, I heard, it was when Volume 3 was out, so they were playing Duality, Before I Forget, Vermilion, and that's basically how I fell in love with the band, and then I just, looked up all their other stuff. Next song is called Birth of the Cruel. The beginning of the song reminds me of Prosthetics from their first album. They sound similar in my head. There's actually Morse code in this song. It starts at the 1 minute and 40 second mark, and when translated, it just says Birth of the Cruel. And that's a little thing that didn't need to be added into the song, but it was. And that's cool. Like, first off, I don't know who brought that into the band. It's like, hey, let's add Morse code to this song. But it's just one of those little things that just adds to what they do. My guess is that it was Craig. I think Craig might talk in Morse code. Maybe he was trying to tell the band, like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. But since they don't understand Morse code, they're just like, oh, you want to add Morse code in the song? Oh, okay. And then that's just how it came to be. That's how it goes in my head. One of the last screams that Corey lets out, or growls, whatever you want to say, one of the last ones he does on this song sounds like one of the screams you would hear at the beginning of Gently from the Iowa album. I feel like you could put them side to side and they would almost sound similar. So for anyone that says Corey can't scream like the Iowa days, pretty sure he can. I don't know if he even wants to do that style of scream anymore, because it might hurt him, because he's come a long way as a vocalist, so he might be doing more proper techniques now, which helps his voice in the long run. You gotta, like, everyone wants all the Iowa stuff. You gotta think about the guys. This isn't about us, the fans. It's about the guys. They're the ones making the stuff. They're the ones performing it. Think about them first before crying over not having Iowa Part 2. Anyway, I like the samples in the song at the beginning and at the end. I have no idea what it's from. I don't know if this is from a show, movie, or if they just made it up on their own. But at the end, the person, it's kind of hard to understand what they're saying because the music's going with it. But it sounds like they say, go back to where you belong. And then the you belong part repeats. So it's like, go back to where you belong, you belong, you belong, you belong. And that ends the song. But the way I interpret this is like, it was a negative statement. Like they're saying, like, you don't belong here, go away. But then the you belong part repeats. So it almost turns into a positive, like, hey, you belong. You belong in this world, you belong here. Again, that's just how I interpreted that. Next is Death Because of Death. This is an interlude. Again, people know how I feel about interludes. I do not care for them in the slightest, and I do not factor them into my score because they don't exist. And again, kind of like with Insert Coin, I wish this led into the next song better. There's really just nothing more to say about this. But the next song is Nero Forte, the most talked about song on the album, hands down. People will not shut up about this song, and for good reason. I kind of get Opium of the People vibes on this song. That's kind of what it reminds me of. People are talking about the chorus. So Corey goes back and forth on the chorus by doing kind of like rap-like screams and then singing. I'll put a clip of it right now. So as you can hear, it's kind of an unconventional chorus, but I think that's what makes it really cool, is because you don't expect something like that. And I've seen people asking who was doing the singing part on the chorus. It's Corey. Like, it sounds just like him. I don't know why people are even questioning that. Just because he's singing in a more high pitch. The dude has range. If you really want to hear his range, then listen to Stone Sour's 1994 demo for the song I Can't Believe. I know that song's 25 years old at this point, but like I said, Corey's very talented. He can still pull that off. Also, Corey doesn't want people to hear that song because I guess he's embarrassed by it, so definitely go listen to it. And yes, for those that don't know, Corey was in Stone Sour before he was in Slipknot. That's why people are like, why is he so much happier in Stone Sour? Because that's his baby. Like, Slipknot made him, but Stone Sour's his baby. Slipknot's where he gets his demons out, and Stone Sour's where he has fun. Let the man enjoy his life. But again, on Nero Forte, this sounds like a song that could be on their first album, in my opinion. Next song after that is Critical Darling. There's really not much for me to say on this song. Like, the verses are kind of what you expect. The chorus is what you expect. Lyrics are what you expect. Instrumentation, like, it's a Slipknot song, basically. I do want to mention the ending, though. The ending leads perfectly into the next song, which is A Liar's Funeral. And when I heard that, instantly got goosebumps. Hair on my arms stood up. The hair on the back of my neck probably stood up too, but I can't see back there, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, getting right into A Liar's Funeral, like, there's just something about Corey singing over slow parts of Slipknot songs that's just, like, when he sings over slow Stone Sour songs, it just doesn't hit you the same way it does when he does it with Slipknot. When he does it with Slipknot, you know you're about to eat a big bowl of Felios. So this is kind of like a bipolar song. It starts slow, and then he screams liar, and then it goes slow again, and then he screams liar again, and then the song really just kind of kicks in. It's still kind of a slower song compared to others. One of the lines in the lyrics, another neck too eager for the rope. Come on. The lyrics on this album are fantastic, by the way. I also want to clear this up. A lot of people think this song's about Chris. It's not. I understand why people would think this. Called A Liar's Funeral, and his mask was called A Liar's Mask. Corey says burn 3 times, and Chris's number was 3. Like, I understand it's not about Chris. The song is about people that look down on Corey and his depression. But again, people can interpret it however they want. If you want it to be about Chris, I guess you could. Next song is called Red Flag, and if you want a song that has just screaming and no singing in it, I have the song for you. Red Flag, it just goes. Like, it's Slipknot just bringing the heavy and just going for it. Also, I want to point out something on the chorus. I don't know if many people have noticed, but there's kind of like a robot or like a monotone Corey in the background. It's kind of faint, so you have to listen for it, but it's there. Next song is called What's Next, or I guess the next interlude. That's what it is. And this leads perfectly into the next song called Spiders with a bass slide. I feel like What's Next and the next song, Spiders, should just be combined. Like, What's Next is less than a minute long, so I don't know why they were split up. I would really like to know why, because that just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, going into the next song, Spiders, the piano is really cool. Really like that. It's got, the eerie, creepy sound to it, which they do very well. But a lot of people say this is a weird song. I don't think it's that weird. If you want to hear this band do something weird, go listen to a song off of Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat called Confessions. Once you've heard that, nothing this band does is weird to you anymore. Actually, maybe don't listen to it if that kills, your interpretation of the band or whatever. Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat was also before Corey's time in the band. That was when Anders was the vocalist, so it's not Corey. The other thing I want to say about Spiders, though, is I don't think it's weird, but it doesn't sound like anything they've done before. Yet, at the same time, it sounds familiar. That's just another thing that this band can do. It's like they do new things, but it still sounds like they've done it before, but they haven't. Next song is called Orphan, and this is the best song on the album. I don't want to hear it. My opinion is a fact. So it kind of starts off with just some sounds. It takes like a minute and 8 seconds or something for the song to like really kick in. When the guitars first come in, I swear to you, it sounds like Metallica. A song off their previous album, I can't remember, but once I heard those guitars, I was like, this is Metallica. Like, it sounds just like them. Anyway, like I said, once the song actually kicks in at the minute 8 second mark, it just goes, kind of like Red Flag. The difference between the two songs is this one has singing on it, on the choruses. This song also reminds me of the Heretic Anthem from Iowa. To me, a song like this is the band at their best. Like, this is Slipknot to me. Orphan. Next song is called My Pain. Now, this is an odd song. A lot of people hate it. My biggest gripe with it is I think it's a little too long. It's nearly 7 minutes, which it could be cut down a bit. I think it deserves to be on the album, but I think they needed to tweak it more. It's kind of hard to explain this one. At some parts it sounds happy, and other parts it sounds creepy. I think Clown comes in at one part and does some vocals. I'm pretty sure that's him, because it doesn't sound like Corey, and I don't know who else it would be. And again, I've been seeing a lot of people say they have issues with the song, or they hate it, or it's like the worst song they've ever done, which I don't think is true. But again, like I said earlier, this album is for them, the band, and not for us. This is them getting their emotions out. So if this is a song that Corey and Cloud needed to help themselves in whatever way, then so be it. That's good. Like, what if Clown went into the studio after his daughter died and did that part? Like, this could be really personal for him. And if that's the case, then that's good for him. Let it out. And they had time to do that. I do think that it is the weakest song on the album, but I don't hate it. Also, this might sound weird, but I feel like some of the lyrics sounded like wedding vows. Because Corey did go through a divorce. That's what a lot of his anger is coming from on this album. Some of them kind of sound like wedding vows in a way, and at the beginning there's like the church bells kind of going off. So I mean, just like when he says, I'm your friend, I'm your wall, I'm your rock, I'm your chain, I'm your lock. But then there's like a negative to it. Like when he says, I'm your chain, I'm your lock, like it almost makes it sound like we're together and you're safe with me. But then right after that he says, there's no escape. I'm your death and I'm your cold, you end with me. Remember, this was never love. So again, it's like part of it is happy sounding, part of it's not. It's just, that was my interpretation. Next is Not Long for This World. Kind of similar to If Rain Is What You Want, sort of. It's in that area. The song may or may not be about Corey not wanting to live, so I'll just leave it at that. The last song on the album is called Solway Firth, which was the second song released. At the beginning, Corey's doing his thing with like the Solway Firth is like the place between England and Scotland, so I'm guessing he's trying to do a Scottish accent type thing. So some people get offended by that because they say it's not good. I feel like Americans are the only people that don't get offended when people try to do an American accent. It seems like everywhere else in the world, if you try to do their accent, they get so offended by it. They're so sensitive. Relax. This is not the way I expected them to end this album, but I'm glad this is how they ended the album, because once it goes, again, it just goes. And then with the lyrics, you want a real smile, or the one I used to practice to not feel like a failure. Like, come on. I didn't go over too many lyrics in this review, because if I did, I'd basically be reciting every song, because the lyrics are really good. Just to kind of wrap this up, I love that you can hear everyone on this album. Like, there's cohesiveness. Every member's on the same page, or at least it sounds like they are. Which is great, because on All Hope Is Gone, everyone was disconnected from each other. They said they just wanted to get the album done and get it out to everyone. And then on the previous album, The Great Chapter, when Jay came in, Jim said that they would jam together. And it sounds like they did that again on this album. They play together as a band, jam together, write together, and they're just a unit. And I feel like you really hear that on this album. Everyone shines. And like, that's really hard because there's 9 members. Like, getting 9 guys together is hard. You have 9 guys who live in different places, 9 guys with different personalities, 9 guys with different tastes, 9 guys with different talents, and they all came together to make this album. With all that said, I will be giving We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot a 10 out of 10 rating. This album honestly has everything you could ask for from this band. Just 20 years after their debut album, they could easily go back to that old sound. They can easily do something new. It all sounds fresh. Nothing seems out of line. Like, it just works. It's such a special thing. If you want heaviness, you got it. You want melody, you got it. You want lyrics, you got it. You want instrumentation, you got it. You want slow songs, you got it. You want fast songs, you got it. The band can do everything. And the band isn't doing an Iowa album again, so people need to just shut up and get over it. Back then, the guys were in a bad place mentally. Alcohol, drugs. Like, that's what it took for them to make that album. Why would you want the guys to go back to that? They're all in a good place right now. They seem happy. Like, just be happy for them. It's the same thing with Metallica. People are like, oh, you guys were better when you were alcoholics. Like, you don't say that to people. If you want to listen to old stuff, listen to it. Just be happy these bands are still around today doing their thing. Both of those bands easily could have broken up, and it would have been a giant what if. What if they kept going? What if they stayed together? They're still together. Enjoy it. Be happy for them. Corey sounds great on this album. Like I said, the lyrics are fantastic. Anger, depression, divorce, this was his album to go off on, and he did. Craig, shout out to Craig. His sounds were sprinkled all over this album. I feel like he took a step forward. It was cool to hear. Jay, I thought Jay did a great job. I think he's a perfect replacement for Joey. I know people are still mad that Joey's gone. In my opinion, Jay is just as good as Joey because he can play Joey's songs. So they're clearly on the same skill level. The difference between the two, which people seem to not be able to articulate, because everyone just says Joey's better than Jay, which is just pure opinion. The difference between the two is that they're 2 different writers. They just write differently. And they write differently because they're 2 different people. Jay can't just fly into Joey's head and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to take that idea and that idea and that idea. Thanks. See you on the next album. Also, Joey can't really play anymore. Like, he has an issue. The transverse myelitis, or however you pronounce it. He said last year that he was just then at 100%. Last year. 10 years after All Hope Is Gone came out. Was the band supposed to wait 10 years for Joey? And now this year, it's 11 years later. Were they supposed to wait that long? And we don't even know if Joey's 100% because someone on Reddit ran into him at a store not too long ago, and he said Joey was in a lot of pain and that he had to sit for a little while because he just couldn't walk. Like, if the dude can barely walk through a store, how's he supposed to play on albums and tour? He can't do it. And Jay grew up a huge fan of the band. There's that video of him backstage dressed up as Corey while his dad's talking to Jim. That kid then grew up to be in the band he idolized, and he dressed up as Corey, and now Corey's right in front of him every show when they play. Like, that's really cool. If you hate Jay, then I hate you, because if you can't be happy for that guy, there's something wrong with you. The band had to move on from Joey. Get over it. Move on. If Joey was so ready to play in band stuff, why isn't he out there? Vimek's not doing anything. they're on hiatus or probably done. Since Sanum's done or on hiatus or whatever, the one dude's already back in Dragon Force. So if the dude's just, itching to get out there, why isn't he out there? Because he can't play. Just because the band doesn't talk about Joey doesn't mean they don't talk to Joey. Is Corey supposed to just get on Twitter and be like, hey guys, just had a phone call with Joey. Okay, bye. Like, their private business is their private business. Just let them be. The guitars all sounded really good. Like, there wasn't really anything flashy, but I didn't feel like they were really lacking either. It's just, like, the anger and the eeriness is so genuine when you hear it from this band. Like, some bands try really hard to be angry or creepy, and it just sounds forced. But Slipknot, it just sounds natural. Like, they're just able to pull it off. They're their own band. They're their own genre. Like, they really are their own genre. No one sounds like them. They don't sound like anyone else. They're just Slipknot. And you can say that for other bands. Deftones, Korn, System of a Down. These are all bands that have their own sound and don't sound like anyone else. The funny thing is all those bands were grouped in as nu metal back in the day, yet they all sound so different. They all have their own identities. And the last thing I want to say, I see a lot of people saying that this is their best album. I understand people are really excited because it just came out. I'm also very excited. It's been out for less than a week at this point, so let's just give it time, digest it a bit. I say give it a year. Give it one full year before making the claim it's their best album. It makes a really strong case, but we need to give it time. When Ghost released Prequel last year, I was like, this is it. This is their best album. Once some time passed, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not their best album. I still really like it, but I might like Melior better. Give it time. Relax. Okay, I will put links below to where you can hear the album, and that's gonna be it for this review. 10 out of 10. Slipknot, we are not your kind.